بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. In this lesson we're going to begin the 34th and final lesson in the series الدرس الرابع والثلاثون. The lesson focuses on الممنوع من الصرف. So rather than read the passage, we want to explain the main concept inshallah. So ممنوع من الصرف is a topic that relates to nouns. So al-ismu is divided into mu'rab and mabni, as we know. Mu'rab, where the endings change. Mabni, where the endings are fixed, they don't change. In the books of Nahu, you may find the terms mutamakkin, referring to mu'rab nouns, and ghayr mutamakkin, referring to mabni nouns. So al-ism, they may say, is either mutamakkin or ghayr mutamakkin. All that means is mu'rab or mabni. And the reason why they refer to them as mutamakkin, ghayr mutamakkin, is because the noun which is mutamakkin basically means it's a strong noun. And the noun which is ghayr mutamakkin, it means it's a weak noun. A noun becomes weak if it resembles the huruf. If a noun resembles a huruf in one of its characteristics, then it becomes mabni, it becomes fixed, because the huruf are all fixed. So if this resembles this, it becomes mabni also. And they have a saying or a principle, الشيء إذا أشبه الشيء أخذ حكمه. If something resembles another thing, it takes the same ruling. So because this one resembles the harf, it took its ruling in it becoming mabni. So with غير متمكن, we're not going to be discussing this. We can put this aside. As for the mutamakkin, which is the mu'rab noun, this is subdivided into two. They are either mutamakkin amkan or mutamakkin غير amkan. Mutamakkin amkan means it's very, very strong. And the noun which is very, very strong is the one that is munsarif. It takes tanween. So its ending changes and it also takes tanween. And ghayr amkan is the one which is mu'rab but does not take tanween. This is strong but not as strong as this one. Why is it not as strong as this one? Because it doesn't take tanween. If you find tanween at the end of a word, it means that this is a noun. So because it doesn't take that sign, it renders it slightly weaker than this one. It becomes mamnu' min as-sarf. And just like we said here, if the noun resembles the harf, it becomes mabni. Here, the reason why it becomes mamnu' min as-sarf, not taking tanween, is because it's resembling the fi'l. When it resembles the fi'l, it becomes mamnu' min as-sarf. So this is our discussion. Our discussion is the noun which is mamnu' min as-sarf. Okay. So what's the definition of mamnu' min as-sarf? We should understand that the mamnu' min as-sarf is الاسم المعرب الذي لا يلحقه تنوين. It is the mu'rab noun which does not accept tanween in its ending, is not followed by tanween. This is the definition of the ism which is mamnu' min as-sarf. It's mu'rab but doesn't take tanween. So it's mutamakkin, it's mu'rab, لكنه متمكن غير أمكن, it doesn't take tanween. This is going to be subdivided into two. In terms of the cause, what's causing it to become mamnu' min as-sarf? There is an independent cause and there is a combined cause, yani two reasons. So here we said يمنع من الصرف لعلة واحدة, is prevented from taking tanween. And just as a note, the word sarf in this context here refers to tanween. So when we say sarf, mamnu' min as-sarf, yumna' min as-sarf, sarf, sarf here basically means tanween, synonym of tanween. So it's prevented from taking tanween for one reason, one independent reason. That's one side. And then يمنع من الصرف لعلتين, prevented from taking tanween for two reasons. Let's begin with this side. So what do we mean by prevented from taking tanween for one reason? We're saying that there's one independent reason. And here is two reasons, two combined reasons. So with the independent reasons, there's three. There's three types of independent reasons which cause the noun to become mamnu' min as-sarf. The first one is al-makhtum bi alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura. If it has alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura on its end, then this is the reason for it to be mamnu' min as-sarf. And this is an independent reason. Examples: Salma, Hubla, Dunya, Marda, Kubra, Ghadba. The alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura is additional alif. This alif that comes at the end is additional. It's not part of the original word. This is why it becomes mamnu' min as-sarf, because this alif is additional. And if it's additional, that's when it becomes alamat al-ta'nith. It becomes a sign of al-ta'nith. Alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura, it's called. And this renders the word to be mu'annath lafdhan. These words which have alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura are considered to be mu'annath in their lafdh. It's important to note that these alifs are additional, because we have other words which resemble these ending with alif, but their alif at the end is not additional. Like in these ones. These ones, the alif is not additional. Rather, it's either a root letter or changed from a root letter. So in mustashfa, for example, it comes from shafaya, right? Mustashfa is mustaf'alun. So this is lamul kalima. Mustafa is mufta'alun. This is lamul kalima. And likewise with fatan, asan, hudan. So you can see they all take tanween. These ones take tanween. They're not mamnu' min as-sarf, even though they have alif maqsura and the ending. These ones are not considered to be mamnu' min as-sarf, because the alif here in these ones are not additional. That's the distinction between the two. If the alif is additional, then it's going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. But if the alif is not additional, it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Okay, that's the first reason. The second reason is al-makhtum bi alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda. Similar to this, but mamduda. What is alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda? Alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda is basically those nouns which end with hamza preceded by an alif. Hamza preceded by alif. Hamza preceded by alif. Hamza preceded by an alif. These are also going to be mamnu' min as-sarf, because the alif in these cases are ta'nith al-mamduda. When we say alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda, we're referring to the hamza, yeah? This hamza was originally an alif. So this word ended with alif, 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 alif. But because we have two alifs at the end, the second alif is changed into an hamza. So when they say alif at-ta'nith, they're not calling it hamza at-ta'nith. They're calling it alif at-ta'nith because this hamza was originally an alif. So that's what alif at-ta'nith al-mamduda means. So we have an alif followed by a hamza, but this hamza was originally an alif. And just as we said here, the sign that this alif is alif at-ta'nith is that it has to be additional. If it's not additional and it's an original part of the root letter or changed from a root letter, then it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Like in these examples. Qurra'un. We know qurra'un is a plural of qari'un. It comes from qara'a. So this hamza is lamul kalima. Bina'un. Binayun. This was changed from ya. Ibtida'un. Ifti'alun. Lamul kalima. Asma'un. Af'alun. Lamul kalima. These words are not mamnu' min as-sarf, although they look like this. They have alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda. This alif is not called ta'nith in these cases. It's not called ta'nith. It's only called ta'nith if it's additional, like in these cases. This is mamnu' min as-sarf because of alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda. These ones are not mamnu' min as-sarf because they don't have alif al-ta'nith. This is not alif al-ta'nith because it's part of the root letter. So this is why we mentioned a note. And this note here applies to both alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura and alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda. The note states إذا تقدم الألف ثلاثة أصول علم أن الألف زائدة. If the alif is preceded by 3 root letters, this is an indication that the alif is additional. So look at this now, for example. Kubra comes from kabura. Kabura, fa'ula. So the fa'ul kalima is kaf ba ra, or the root letters are kaf ba ra. Fu'la. Fu'la. So the alif has been preceded by 3 root letters. Fa, ayn, lam. And likewise, ghadba. Fa, ayn, lam. Fa'la. So the fa, the ayn, the lam have already preceded. That means that this alif that's coming at the end is additional. And in these cases, fu'ala, fu'ala'u. The alif has been preceded by the root letters. Af'ila'u. The alif has been preceded by root letters. Hamra'u, fa'la'u has been preceded by the root letters. So if the hamza in this case and the alif in this case has been preceded by root letters, we know that it is additional. And if it is additional, it's going to render the word mamnu' min as-sarf. But if that condition is not fulfilled, meaning the alif itself is the root letter, then it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. So hopefully these two are understood. These two independent reasons, they render the word mamnu' min as-sarf and it becomes mu'annath lafdhan. So the word Zakariya is mu'annath. It's a man's name, but it's mu'annath lafdhan. And it's mu'annath for one reason, and that's because it has alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda. And the word ulama, even though it's referring to scholars, the word itself is mamnu' min as-sarf, or it's mu'annath, sorry. The word itself is mu'annath lafdhan in its pronunciation. And then the third independent reason is the word that comes on the form of muntaha al-jumu' ala sighati muntaha al-jumu'. And the sighat muntaha al-jumu', muntaha is the peak or the ultimate type of pluralization. You can't pluralize it any further. Like, for example, if you had makan, which means place, we can pluralize it into amkina, and we can further pluralize it into amakin. But once we get to amakin, we can't go any further. That's the ultimate plural. And there are two main patterns, mafa'ilu and mafa'ilu. And when we say mafa'ilu, the focus is not on which letters are original and which letters are root. That's not what the focus is when we mention these two patterns. Rather, the focus is on having, in this particular case, having two vowed letters followed by an alif and then two vowed letters. So if ever you have two vowed letters, whether both are original or root, it doesn't matter. Alif and then two vowed letters, whether they are root or original, it doesn't matter. So the focus here is on this particular pattern. Alif with two vowed letters preceding it and two vowed letters following it. And in this case, alif preceded by two vowed letters and followed by three letters where the middle is sakin. That's the focus. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because we're going to come across patterns such as these. So mafa'ilu, this conforms to mafa'ilu, even though fa is root, ayn is root, lam is root, and lam is root. All the letters are root. The alif is additional. So the patterns of mafa'il and mafa'ilu are not focusing on whether the letter is additional or not. It's only focusing on if you have an alif in the middle preceded by two vowed letters followed by two vowed letters. Alif in the middle preceded by two vowed letters followed by three, all vowed except the middle one, which should be sakin. Examples: amakin, masajid for mafa'il, and for mafa'ilu, karasiyu and mafatihu. These words which come on this pattern are rendered mamnu' min as-sarf. And this is an independent reason, one reason, because it comes on sighat muntaha al-jumu'. However, we just need to mention one exception, and the exception is manqus nouns. Manqus nouns are those nouns which have a ya lazima preceded by kasra. Nouns which have a ya lazima preceded by a kasra, if they come on these patterns, they're not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. They're not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Like the example here we have is ma'anin. Ma'anin, if you put alif lam, is al-ma'ani. Ya lazima preceded by kasra. Take off the alif lam, it still have tanween. So it's not mamnu' min as-sarf, these ones. طيب, so المنقوص على صيغة منتهى الجموع يعامل معاملة المنصرف. The manqus noun that comes on the patterns of صيغة منتهى الجموع, it's dealt with like a munsarif noun, the one that takes tanween. So we've completed this side, and we have three independent reasons. The author is going to mention these as one, so he's going to have two independent reasons, because he said alif al-ta'nith, he's counted them as one. Al-maqsur al-mamduda, both under one category. But mentioning it as three perhaps makes it clear, because the alifs are slightly different. So that's the first side. Then we have the one that's mamnu' min as-sarf for two causes, for two reasons. And this is going to be subdivided into two main categories: alam and sifa. Alam being a proper noun and sifa being an adjective. So we're looking for two combined reasons. So the ones that come here are all going to be a proper noun. And alongside being a proper noun, they're also going to be mu'annath. This is where the combined reason comes in. The illatain comes in because it's alam, mu'annath. Alam, a'jami. Alam, ma'dul. Alam, makhtum bi alif wa nun za'idatain. Alam, ala wazn al-fi'l. Alam, al-murakkab al-mazji. Likewise, this side is a sifa, it's an adjective. And alongside being a sifa, it's ma'dul. So, alam al-ma'dul. Al-sifa al-ma'dula, sorry. Al-sifa ala wazn fa'lan. Al-sifa ala wazn al-fi'l. So that's where the combined reason comes from. So we have proper nouns, and under proper nouns we have 6 additional reasons, and under sifa we have 3 additional reasons. Okay, let's go with the first one. If we have a proper noun which is mu'annath and is feminine, every feminine proper noun is going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. And femininity is of three types: feminine in lafz, in utterance, in pronunciation; feminine in ma'na, feminine in meaning; or feminine in both lafzi wa ma'nawi, lafzi wa ma'nawi. So example, Fatima, the lafz is feminine because it has ta marbuta, and the meaning, the person who has this name, is also feminine. So this is an example of lafzi wa ma'nawi. Fatima is mu'annath lafzi wa ma'nawi, so it's mamnu' min as-sarf because it's alam mu'annath. Example, Zainab. Zainab is mamnu' min as-sarf. Why? Because alam mu'annath. Two reasons. And the ta'nith here is just ma'na because it refers to a female. Jahannam is also the name of hellfire. It's mamnu' min as-sarf. Alam mu'annath. Why is it mu'annath? Because it's ma'nawi. Hamza, although it's the name of a man, it's mamnu' min as-sarf because it's alam mu'annath. How is it mu'annath? It's mu'annath in lafz. Lafz, because it has ta marbuta. Any noun which has ta marbuta, whether it's the name of a man or name of a woman, is automatically going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Any name of a woman is going to be mamnu' min as-sarf regardless if it has ta marbuta or not. So alam mu'annath, we're referring to nouns which have some sort of sign of it being mu'annath. And as a benefit, we know that a noun is going to be mu'annath lafdhan through three forms. There are three forms that a word is feminine in pronunciation. Number one is if it has ta marbuta. Number two is if it has alif al-ta'nith al-maqsura or alif al-ta'nith al-mamduda. Those are the three signs that a word is feminine lafdhan. But the reason why we didn't mention Zakaria here is because Zakaria, the fact that it has alif at-ta'nith al-mamduda, that independent reason, that's sufficient for it to be mamnu' min as-sarf alone. So it's not mentioned here. But when we say alam mu'annath here, it's really, in terms of lafz, it's only referring to ta at-ta'nith, the ta al-marbuta. Okay, then we mention a exception here. So if ever you see an alam, it's mu'annath, it's wajib for it to be mamnu' min as-sarf. However, there's a case where it's jaiz, and it's optional. You have the option to make it mamnu' min as-sarf or not. And this comes with four conditions. If the noun is made up of three letters, إذا كان ثلاثيا, the feminine noun that we're speaking about is made up of three letters. ساكن الوسط, second condition is that the middle letter is sakin, it has a sukun. غير أعجمي, and this name, this proper noun, this proper feminine name, is not a foreign name. ولا منقولا, nor was it transferred from a male name and changed into a female name. Then if these four cases are fulfilled, or four conditions are fulfilled, then you're allowed to make it mamnu' min as-sarf or not if you wish. An example of a proper feminine name that fulfills all four conditions is Hindun. Hindun is three-lettered, the middle letter is sakin. Hindun is not A'jami, it's an Arabi name, and it's not manqul. It was not a male name previously and changed into a female name. That's what we mean by manqul. Like Zaydun, for example, is thulathi, sakin al-wasat, ghayr A'jami, but because it's manqul, it's a male's name. If you was to name a female Zayd, then you have to make it mamnu' min as-sarf. Yani if there was a female called Zayd, yani theoretically, according to the rules, we just explained the rules, you wouldn't have this in real life. That's a male name. You would say Zaydu, you wouldn't say Zaydun if you're naming a female. It's wajib for it to be mamnu' min as-sarf. So Hindun, Da'dun, for example, you can say Hindun, Da'dun, or you can say Hindu, Da'du. So the point is, if these four conditions are met, then you have the option, Jaiz, it's optional. Okay, so alam mu'annath is always going to be mamnu' min as-sarf except if these four conditions are met. And we explained about ta'nith is of three types, lafzi, ma'nawi, or lafzi, ma'nawi. Okay, the second is alam al-a'jami. So two combined reasons is it's a foreign proper noun. Foreign proper noun like Williamu, Adamu, Ibrahim. As a benefit, all of the names of the prophets are mamnu' min as-sarf except for six. Sun shamlahu. They're combined in this acronym. Salihun, Nuhun, Shu'aybun, Muhammadun, Lutun, Hudun. These six names of the prophets are not mamnu' min as-sarf. all of them are foreign names except for 4. Salihun, Shu'aibun, Muhammadun, Hudun. These 4 are Arab names. The rest are foreign. So we have 4 plus 2, which was Nuhun and Lutun. Nuhun and Lutun, despite them being foreign names, they are allowed to, or they take tanween, they're not mamnu' min as-sarf, because إذا كان ثلاثيا ساكن الوسط فلا يمنع من الصرف. If the alam a'jami is made up of 3 letters and the middle letter has a sukun, then it's not mamnu' min as-sarf. Examples are Lutun, Bush, the president of America, Bushun. Khan is a common name in Asia, family name. Shithun, some say is the name of a prophet, but the hadith which refer to a prophet named Sheeth are not authentic. Allahu alam. So alamun a'jami. Alam a'jami is the second type, combined illa for a noun to be mamnu' min as-sarf. But we mentioned that it must not be thulathi, where the middle letter is sakin. These ones take tanween. The third one is al-alam al-ma'dul. Proper nouns which are ma'dul, as in they have been taken from a different noun. And these are 14 in total. There's 14 in total. You just have to remember them. And they're all on the pattern of fu'alu. Fu'alu, and they say they were taken from fa'il. They were originally fa'il but changed to fu'alu. These 14 are Umaru, Zufaru, Zuhalu, Jumahu, Quzahu, Jushamu, Mudaru, Huja, Dulafu, Hubalu, Bula'u, Quthamu, Thu'alu. Except for Thu'al. Thu'al was not taken from fa'il, rather it was taken from af'al. So ath'al. The other ones were taken from fa'il. All the other 13 were taken from fa'il, except for Thu'al, it was taken from af'al. The reason for it to be mamnu' min as-sarf is because they said it's alam ma'dul. Alam which was taken from a different name. The fourth case is alam makhtum bi alif wa nun za'idatain. If the alam has alif and nun al-makhtum bi alif wa nun za'idatain, it has alif and nun additional to its ending, then it's going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Examples are Uthmanu, Imranu, Ramadanu, names of people, whether they're names of a place like Ghassan or names of a month. These are proper nouns which have alif and nun additional. So when we say za'ida, additional, what if the nun is not additional, for example? If the nun is not additional, it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Like for example, Hassanun. Hassanun is not mamnu' min as-sarf because it comes from hasuna. That nun is part of the original letter. So it comes from hasuna, to be good. So Hassanun is not mamnu' min as-sarf. How do we know if the nun is additional or not? The rule, إذا تقدم ثلاثة أصول علم زيادتهما. If the alif and nun are preceded by 3 root letters, just as we said here, then that's an indication that alif and nun are additional, because the root letters have already been mentioned, so it's additional. So with Hassanun, it could be mamnu' min as-sarf if it was taken from hassa, for example. Hassa, which comes from al-hiss, to feel something. Hassanu is mamnu' min as-sarf because alif and nun are additional. They're not part of the root letters. Whereas if it came from hasuna, this is not mamnu' min as-sarf because nun is a root letter. The fifth, alam ala wazn al-fi'l. If it comes on the wazn al-fi'l, there are certain patterns of the verbs which are specific to verbs. If a alam comes on one of these patterns which are specific to verbs, then it becomes mamnu' min as-sarf. The examples that they mention is like fa'ala. Fa'ala, that type of name, or that type of pattern, fa'ala is specific. Likewise, mabni lil majhul, like fu'ila. Another pattern is the fi'l madi if it has hamzatul wasl, like intalaqa, istakhraja. Those type of verbs which have hamzatul wasl in the madi. Those are specific. So if people have those kind of names, those kind of patterns, then it's going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Other examples are words that come on the fi'l mudari' and they have one of the huruf al-mudara'a, hamza or ya or ta or nun, anaytu, like hamida, yahmadu, ahmadu. Someone has that name. Zada, yazidu, ghalaba, yaghlibu, anta taghlibu, shakara, yashkuru, yashkuru, narjisu. So these are examples of names which are mamnu' min as-sarf. For what reason? Because they are alam ala wazn al-fi'l. They come on the pattern of a fi'l. Ahmad, Yazid, Taghlib, Yashkur, Narjis. These are actual names. And then fifthly and finally, if it's alam murakkab mazji. Murakkab basically means a compound. Mazji is it's mixed so that it becomes one. So it was originally two different nouns, but because it's brought together and it become a compound, it creates a new word. And this word that's been created becomes mamnu' min as-sarf because it's alam murakkab. And the alam murakkab al-mazji is of two types. There's one which is mu'rab, and this is the one that we're speaking about. And there's one which is mabni, and this is not what we're speaking about. When is it mabni? It's mabni if it ends with the second. So we have a noun, and then we have wayh. It comes with wayh at the end. If it comes with wayh, this one's mabni on kasr. Like siba wayh. Siba is one word, wayh is another. It's combined to make one new word. Siba wayh is mabni. Nifta wayh is mabni. These ones are not part of the discussion. Even though they're murakkab mazji, these ones are not part of our discussion because they have wayhi, they're mabni on kasr. We're speaking about the ones that do not have wayhi. These ones are mu'rab. Like ma'adi, karib. Hadra, maut. Ba'la, bak. Ba'al, one word. Bak was another. Ma'ad, yakrib. Hadara, maut. Those were the original words, but they, after combining, they become a new proper noun. So these ones are mamnu' min as-sarf. Why? Because they are alam and they murakkab mazji. Alamun murakkab tarkib al-mazji. طيب. If we look at the other side now, as-sifa. Sifa mamnu' min as-sarf for three reasons. The three reasons are if it's ma'dula. Sifa al-ma'dula. Ma'dul is the same as ma'dul here. It's taken from something else. So here they mention ma'dula. Under this comes two types of words. Those numbers which have they come on the pattern of fu'al, maf'al are both going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. And we have this from 1 to 10. Uhad, mawhad, up to ushar, ma'shar. From 1 all the way to 10, if they come on fu'al and maf'al, they are mamnu' min as-sarf. And this is a sifa. This is an adjective. Adjective as in they came, you're describing someone as they came uhad. If you say uhad, it means they came in single file. If you say they came ushar, they came in tens. If they came in ruba', they came in fours. They came in fives. It's a description. Yeah, it's a sifa. That's what we mean by sifa ma'dul. So this says ma'dul as in it was taken from something else. It was taken from the original numbers, changed into fu'al, maf'al. And this one is ukharu, ukharu. Ukharu is the plural of ukhra. Ukhra means another one. You're describing something. Nisa'un ukharu. Nisa'un ukharu. Other women. So other, this is the sifa. This particular word ukharu is mamnu' min as-sarf. What's the reason for it being mamnu' min as-sarf? Sifa, and it's ma'dula. Ma'dula from the mufrad. Ukhra. So two things that come under this category. The second one is a sifa ala wazn fa'lan. Sifa that comes on the wazn of fa'lan. If it comes on the wazn fa'lan with the condition alladhi mu'annathu fa'la, and the feminine of fa'lan has to be fa'la. If the feminine of fa'lan is other than fa'la, it's not going to be fulfilling this condition. So sifa that comes on the pattern of fa'lan. Examples: rayyan, shab'an, sakran, ghabban, mal'an. Because their feminine is rayya, shab'a, sakra, ghabba. Bikhilafi uryanun, nadmanun. Why? For this one, it has two reasons. Because the ayn has a dhamma, or the first letter has a dhamma. And secondly, the mu'annath of uryan, we say uryana, not arya. It doesn't come on this pattern. Likewise, nadmanun is nadmanatun, not nadma. And there's 14 examples, not fi'lan. 14 examples of sifatan, 14 examples which come on fa'lan, whose feminine is fa'lana. You add a ta marbuta. From them is nadman. And this nadman, there's two types. This nadman that we're speaking about, which has its mu'annath form has a ta marbuta, comes from al-munadama. Al-munadama is drinking companionship, yani speaking and conversating and having a companionship while drinking together. That's where it comes from, al-munadama. But there is a nadman that comes from nadam, regret. The nadman that comes from regret is mamnu' min as-sarf, because its feminine is nadma. Imra'atun nadma wa rajulun nadmanu. But this one is munadama. Okay. So what's the condition for this one to be mamnu' min as-sarf? Sifa on the pattern of fa'lan, but its feminine has to be fa'la. And the third and final one is the sifa, the adjective that comes on wazn al-fi'l, on the pattern of the fi'l. And the pattern of the fi'l is specific to af'alu. If a sifa comes on af'alu, then it's mamnu' min as-sarf. And this is going to encompass and include af'alu tafdeel, like afdalu, akbaru, ahsanu. It's going to encompass colors, ahmaru, azraqu. It's also going to encompass defects as well, like a'waru, awra, ahmaqu, a'ma, those kind of examples, because they're all on af'al and they are sifa. But we need to mention two conditions. لا يكون مؤنثه مختوما بالتاء. This af'al, this is the mudhakkar form. The mu'annath must not have a ta. If it's af'al, af'ala, then it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. Like armal. Armal is a sifa, meaning someone who's faqir or widowed, someone who's poor or widowed. Because the mu'annath is armalah, it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. So we say armalun. Armalun. Likewise, the other exception is an yakuna wasfan asala, that it has to be a adjective in its origin. It was originally an adjective. There are some words which are placed on af'al but they're not originally an adjective, like arnab, for example. Arnab is a rabbit. Originally it means rabbit, it refers to a rabbit. But you can use it as an adjective. When you describe someone as being an arnab, it means he's dalil, someone who is lowly. Rajulun arnab. Is arnab there an original adjective? It's not original adjective. Because it's not original adjective, it's not going to be mamnu' min as-sarf. So two conditions. For af'al to be mamnu' min as-sarf, this sifa has to be, its mu'annath must not have ta marbuta, and it must be a sifa which is originally a sifa on this pattern af'al. So that excludes the likes of armalun and the likes of arnabun. طيب. We've completed the mamnu' min as-sarf. All that remains is the ahkam. Ahkam al-mamnu' min as-sarf. Ahkam al-mamnu' min as-sarf, there's two main things that we need to bear in mind. First, al-mamnu' min as-sarf la yunawwan. The mamnu' min as-sarf does not take tanween. That's the whole point. Secondly, yujarru bil-fatha. When mamnu' min as-sarf nouns are majroor, the sign of it majroor is fatha, niyabatan al-kasra, instead of taking a kasra. So, ahdaytu or sallamtu ala ahmada. I gave salam to ahmada. Instead of saying ahmadi, we say ahmada. But there's conditions or there's exceptions here. 6 exceptions we're going to mention. Although the author he mentions 2, we're going to mention 6 inshallah, just to complete the benefit. First, إذا دخل عليه al. If the mamnu' min as-sarf has al, if a mamnu' min as-sarf, any of the mamnu' min as-sarf words that we mentioned, whether it's li'illatin wahida or li'illatain, has al, then it's going to go back to being a normal noun. It's going to be going back to being a normal noun. So, example in the Quran, Allah says, وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. Masajid is صيغة منتهى الجموع, ممنوع من الصرف لعلة واحدة. But because it has al, it was meant to be masajida. Because ممنوع من الصرف, we just said, when it's majroor, it takes a fatha. So majroor takes a fatha. But because it has al, it goes back to being a normal noun now. We say في المساجد, إلى المساجد. It goes back to being a normal noun. That's number one. If it has al, it goes back to being a normal noun. Second is if it's mudaf. If the mamnu' min as-sarf, any of the mamnu' min as-sarf noun words are mudaf, then they're going to go back to being a normal noun. إذا كان مضافا. For example, the word ahsan. What did we just say about ahsan? Ahsan, we said, is mamnu' min as-sarf because it's sifa ala wazn al-fi'l, af'al, ahsan, right? But here, because it's mudaf, ahsan taqweemin, لقد خلقنا الإنسان في, it goes back to being a normal noun, so it takes a kasra. في أحسن تقويم, in the best form. That's the second exception. If it's mudaf, it goes back to being a normal noun. So these first two the author mentioned. I've added 4 more just to complete the benefit, inshallah. The third case where the mamnu' min as-sarf noun goes back to being a normal noun is if you do tasghir, use the diminutive form. So Umar, if you do tasghir, it becomes Umayrun. Now it takes tanween and it goes back to being a normal noun. Sakran, which we said is fa'lan, the sifa on fa'lan. If you do tasghir, Sukayranun, it goes back to being a normal noun. Ahmad Humaydun, it goes back to being a normal noun. Fourthly, إذا قصد التنكير, if you intend to indicate the indefinite form of that name or that noun, then it becomes a normal noun. For example, مررت بأحمد وأحمد آخر. So Ahmad, this one is mamnu' min as-sarf. We know Ahmad is mamnu' min as-sarf because alam ala wazn al-fi'l. So I went past Ahmed. This Ahmed is a known Ahmed. But I want to say another Ahmed. I don't know the other Ahmed, but his name is Ahmed. So the intent here is his nakira. مررت بأحمد وأحمد آخر. So this one goes back to being a normal noun. Why? Even though it's mamnu' min as-sarf, because you intend tankir. You intend that it is indefinite. Another Ahmed. I know his name is Ahmed, but I don't know him. That's number 4. Number 5, لأجل التناسب, so that it's similar to the words around it. For example, حضر محمد وأحمد وزيد. Ahmed is mamnu' min as-sarf, but because it's preceded and followed by words which have tanween, at-tanasub, so that it's suitable to the words surrounding it, we give it tanween in this case. And this is also found in the Quran, in the qira'ah of Nafi', إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ سَلَاسِلًا وَأَغْلَالًا وَسَعِيرًا. Here it's meant to be mamnu' min as-sarf because it's صيغة منتهى الجموع مفاعل. It's meant to be سلاسلة. But in the qira'ah of Nafi', سلاسلا وأغلالا وسعيرا, because of tanasub. And the 6th exception is ضرورة الشعر. In poetry, you're allowed to do certain things which you're not allowed outside of poetry. So in order to keep the metric flow of the line of poetry, sometimes you can make the word take tanween. Like here, Nu'man is a noun which has alif and nun additional. But here we said, أعد ذكر نعمان إن ذكره من الطيب ما كررته يتضوع. طيب, this is basically what we're going to be learning, inshallah, but I've given you more detail. If this is understood, inshallah, the next lesson will be very easy. بإذن الله الكريم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.